What's going on, reefers? Blaine here. As you guys can see, we are back in the farm today, and we're going to be talking more about some of our aquacultured animals we have here at Topshelf Aquatics. By the title of the video, we're going to be talking about Favia. And I know right now, I'm sure a lot of you at home might be cringing when I say the word Favia, because Favia corals have been well misidentified for a long period of time, but after around 2014, we were able to do some more scientific progress and able to figure out that the larger group of Favia actually go ahead and group them up into a lot more groups. So today we're going to be breaking down our top 5 favorite here at Topshelf Aquatics. We'll break them down to each individual genus, but we're going to go ahead and be talking about one of our favorite corals, and a coral that I feel is truly underrated, Favia. One key point I wanted to point out really quick about Favia corals that a lot of people don't understand, and it's a reason I feel that they're underrated in the hobby, is a lot of the time hobbyists and people in general that are into keeping corals are only going to see them in their frag stages. A lot of the time you're not going to be able to see how well they develop out their skeletal structures, how they look, and the different colors that kind of intermix with one another. I think that's one thing that makes them truly underrated. A lot of the times you're going to see a lot of frags, but today we're going to be showcasing a lot of really nice and well grown out colonies since we have them here in the farm. And that's one thing I would like to say really quick right off the rip that I think is mostly underrated about Favia corals. Like I mentioned earlier, these corals are all the time misidentified. One thing to remember, as of right now, when we sit here in 2024, there are only 2 species of Favia that we actually know and have actually classified. We're going to call them Favia today because across the aquarium trade, across the saltwater hobby, that's what mainly everyone knows them as. So we're going to try and keep it simple today. But obviously, like I'm saying, we're going to have each and every single one of these. They're going to have their own genus, they're going to have their own species, and all those things worked in. But it's important to understand that overall, a lot of these large polyp stony corals have been identified as Favia and have been known as that for a long period of time. These corals are photosynthetic in trade. Obviously, it's important to understand when it comes to lighting what kind of range of par we're looking for these corals. When it comes to here at Topshelf Aquatics, we're keeping them at roughly 50 to 150 par. So these are some corals that you can utilize in some shaded areas. I really like to say though, when it comes to some reef tanks that have really filled in over the course of time, these are some amazing corals that you can kind of tuck them into some shaded areas and really work them into your tank if you're looking to fill in those empty spaces. A lot of times people have these corals that grow out, get really big, and they start to shade some areas, and they wonder to themselves, how am I going to fill in my tank? Where can I put more corals? Well, these corals right here are a great example of someone that can work into those shaded areas if you're looking to fit in some more colors. Obviously, it's going to be different depending on what color morph you end up going with and picking out from Topshelf Aquatics, but roughly to 50 to 150 par is what we're going to be shooting for when it comes to our Favias. Another note I wanted to make was the idea of placement in your tank. It's really important when you're getting ready to start putting a bunch of corals into your reef system, understanding where the placement is going to be best for them. It's really good to understand that maybe having a good about 2 or 3 inches from other corals is good for these Favia corals due to their sweeper tentacles they'll put out. Just a little bit of sweepers, not super long comparative to maybe a Galaxia or something of that sort. And it's really good to understand that you don't want to start up any chemical warfare with other corals, so giving them a little bit of space is a good idea. Obviously, another super important aspect when it comes to our corals is going to be flow. As you guys can see in this system right here in the back wall here of the Topshelf farm, there's a lot of flow going on, tons of surface agitation, a lot of water moving throughout the tank. So it's really important for these corals to have flow. When we're talking about the corals we're identifying today, we're not going to need a lot of flow for these corals. We're going to be talking about corals that like more lower to medium flow. These are areas where, corals can kind of hang out. They're not going to get covered with detritus because there's obviously not just stagnant water, there's water moving around them, but it's important that they're not getting pushed around too much with a bunch of flow and they're getting their tissue ripped off their skeleton. So super important to find areas of lower to medium flow for these corals where they can kind of hang out. It's important to have flow in those areas because these corals like to broadcast feed as well, so the ability to have some motion in the ocean to grab up some food is going to be really essential too. Speaking of feeding, let's talk a little bit about some of the feeding we do for Favia corals here in the farm. Obviously, we have tons of corals here, and we're doing a lot of feeding throughout all of our systems. We like to do a mixture of phytoplankton, aminos, and all kinds of different stuff, maybe some mixed dry foods as well. We're talking about reefroids, benepets. These are our tools here in the farm. When we're talking about feeding our Favia corals, we like to give them a couple feedings throughout the course of the week. If you want to do spot feedings, that can be great for them. Turn off the flow for 20 to 30 minutes. If you're looking to do broadcast feedings, they can grab up food as well. Just make sure you're putting enough in the tank where all the fish are getting some and the corals can grab them as well. A reminder though, these corals are obviously photosynthetic, but they like to get feedings, and you can see with their tentacles out trying to grab up food that they'll enjoy a meal. We went over some of the overarching care requirements for these corals. I always think it's important to give you guys some information, some of the aspects and things that you're looking for to help care for these corals. A good buddy of mine, Sean Ono, recently wrote an article for reefbuilders.com where he talked about the Favia, the taxonomy issues, and all of that as well. If you guys want to do a little bit deeper dive on the taxonomy side of things, learn more about Favia corals. Sorry, I'm saying Favia right now. But if you want to learn more about it, go ahead, head down to the description down below and check out that article. All right, now enough talk about the care requirements. Let's go ahead and check out some of our favorites here at the Top Shelf Farm. All right, the first coral we're going to talk about on our list is our Skittles Favia, coming from the genus Favorites. A nice combo of burgundy and purple working its way down to a beautiful blue and green rim. One that can really stand out in the farm. If you're looking for some nice purple to add to some shaded areas, this could be the perfect addition to your reef tank at home. Next, let's talk about my personal favorite on the list coming out of the farm. This one is the TSA Black Mamba from the genus Dipsostrea. I'm a hoops fan at heart, so a coral named after one of my favorite players, I have to get behind that. The coloring on this coral has a nice green rim between the walls with a very unique blue coloring that intermixes with some stark dark navy blue sections. Once this is grown out and is in the colony form, it really looks awesome. The TSA Pandemic Favia, coming from the genus Favorites, is another killer selection from the TSA farm. The main color of gold runs throughout the entire coral with a nice mixture of maroon working into green. The colonies that we have on the farm really show the nice shades of the color that this one can hold. Another really nice Favorites, worthy of making it into any reef at home. Next up is the TSA Big Bang from the genus Dipsostrea. It's a solid two-color Favia that I have fallen in love with over time as I've spent time filming and showcasing all of these Favias to you. With the nice color contrast of the burgundy and toxic greenish yellow makes this coral really pop. Up close you can see the nice green color speckling into the burgundy, which is really unique. Getting up close with these corals is always a great way to see the hidden attributes that they hold. Our final and the favorite around the farm is the TSA Inferno Favia, coming from the genus Favorites. The name speaks for itself with that intense red coloring you see on the entire coral with accents of yellow that really sets this on fire. When you're looking extremely close though, you can see glitter speckling all throughout it. This is a hard one to beat though, and in my opinion should be a coral that is in everyone's reef tank at home. Whether it be filling in shaded space or one of the centerpiece attractions to your reef, the TSA Inferno is a must-have. Obviously, you guys are seeing just a couple selections of some of our favorite pieces here at the Top Shelf Farm, but we have a wide range available on our website, so be sure to head over, check them all out, whether it be the TSA Wolverine, the TSA Anti-Venom. There's a lot of really great choices, so head over to the website now and grab up some amazing corals. We've made our way around the farm. Obviously, I needed to have someone give me the list of the top 5 favorite coming out of the farm. We've got Ben here, one of the farm associates, and today he's gonna be giving you guys a couple extra tips and tricks when it comes to Favias, or whatever they may be, right? So whatever they may be. So I'm gonna let Ben take it away and kind of give you guys some extra tips and tricks coming out of the farm.
Yeah, so like you were saying, you know, the Favia is not really a Favia. They're a very diverse group of corals. Just with the ones that we looked at, their behavior is very different, and a lot of people don't realize that they're not going to be as aggressive with their stingers as some of the other ones are going to be. They're kind of all been clumped together to be very aggressive. That's probably the biggest thing that I hear about Favias is that, oh, I can't do Favias because they're going to be aggressive. Really, you just need a little bit of space between them and your other corals. You know, we're standing right next to this beautiful torch, and I think that torch corals will sting a whole lot more than any Favia will, but you know, still torches are really popular, and it seems like not as many people are hesitant to put torches in their tanks than Favias. The Favia is kind of a unique encruster in which you get a whole lot more of that fleshy look as opposed to like a litho or a cyphastria, where you get that fleshy look of an LPS, but it is also an encruster. You will see that their flesh gets a little bit fluffier when you feed them. And you do get more of that contrast. And
Gotcha.
go into contrast to a lot of the corals on this list, like the Big Bang, the Black Mamba, Inferno, all of those guys, they always have such vibrant contrast between them. I don't know how well the camera is picking up on the pandemic, but the green and the yellow and the red all together makes for a crazy contrast that you just don't see in a lot of the larger LPS. So if you're looking for something that's going to have a lot of color, relatively easy care, and also responds to feeding well, I think that Favias are definitely the best choice for that.
Nice, and I know you mentioned too, you were saying that they might grow a little bit better if they're on a flatter space, correct?
Yeah, so like here at the farm, we've got them growing vertically and horizontally both. I've found that if they're over like, I don't know, a 45% angle or 45% grade, they just tend to look a little shaded on one side, and they definitely favor moving upwards and kind of shelving at that point. So in order to avoid kind of that awkward look of the Favia, they'll get like fluffy on top. It's hard to describe, but they'll get fluffy on top and kind of flatter on the bottom if you put them like directly straight up and down. So I wouldn't recommend putting them as a back wall or anything like that. Stick with your leptos or cyphastrias for that. But if you wanted a nice like centerpiece on your sand bed or just a little above your sand bed underneath acros or other higher light corals, they do a good job of encrusting and giving you that depth.
Sweet. Well, thanks, Ben. Appreciate you so much. I know all the time you're telling me time and time again, you got to make a Favia video. You got to make a Favia video. Make a Favia video. Well, today's the day. We're going to get it out, and I can't wait to share this with everyone. Appreciate you stepping on, talking about some of your favorite corals, and giving you some of the tricks from the farm.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to talk about Favias, as you know. I'm grateful that you did this for us.
As I mentioned from the start of this video, I wanted to just call this entire group that we're going to be talking about today Favia. Obviously, as we've mentioned a couple of times now, you have the opportunity right now to go ahead and do some deeper research and get more in tune with the scientific side of things of our hobby. This was a lot of fun today though, talking about some of our favorite corals, a coral that I think is truly underrated in the hobby, and in my opinion, one that should be in your reef tanks at home. If you guys enjoyed hanging out throughout the course of this video, learning about our Favias here at the farm, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future uploads.